guys, and welcome back to another episode of Two Ghouls and a Crime. I'm Mac.
And I'm Dez.
And today we will be discussing the David Parker Ray case, aka the Toy Box Killer. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we do get into this. We obviously did take a little bit of a break for a little bit. Life happens.
Yeah, mental health check.
You know,
Little breather.
We're figuring it out. We're here.
We love you guys still.
Yeah, we came back. We needed something else to focus on. We needed to get back into the grind.
Yeah, we needed to get our headspace back into the spooky realm of things to be better for you guys and just more consistent.
And figure out our stuff.
Yeah.
A little bit more, which I don't think I'm figured out. But
we're
I'm
back.
working on it. So just to bring it down a little bit, this is going to be a huge trigger warning. This is a very, 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 very disturbing case. If you do not know already, there's a lot of graphic descriptions and there are lots of mentions of like rape, torture, and sexual abuse. If that is not for you, we totally understand. It's going to be hard to listen to. If you need to skip through parts, that's totally okay. If you need to skip this episode entirely, it will be a two-parter, unfortunately, so there will be two parts.
It's very
not
long.
Unfortunately, but like if you're not willing, if you don't want to listen,
it's okay.
It's okay.
We just appreciate you even listening to the intro.
Exactly. You made it this far, you're still listening to us. I honestly don't know how.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Very much.
So, David Parker Ray was born November 6, 1939 in Belen, New Mexico, to father Cecil Leland Ray and mother Nettie Opal Parker. It's important to note that Ray's early life was marked by significant instability and trauma. During his childhood, Ray and his younger sister Peggy Pearl Ray, who was 3 years younger, lived with his grandparents on his mother's side, Russell and Dolly Parker, due to their parents' marriage ending. They lived on a small ranch because of their poor financial condition, and his mother was reportedly an alcoholic and had a history of unstable relationships. It's said this likely contributed to the dysfunctional environment in which Ray grew up in. He would beat him and supply him with magazines depicting sadomasochistic?
Yep, sadomasochistic pornography.
Yeah. Which contain images of women being bound, beat up, and tortured. He went to Mountainer High School, I think.
I don't know.
I might be pronouncing that wrong. I did my best. In New Mexico, where he did not do well grade-wise, and he was bullied by his peers for his unusual shyness around girls. He also abused alcohol and other drugs as a teenager. Ray's sexual fantasies of raping, torturing, and even murdering women developed during his teenage years, when Ray was 14 years old and his sister saw his sadomasochistic.
Yep.
I'm going to struggle with that. Drawings and pornography pictures of bondage practices. Nobody did anything about this. Based on statements made by Ray, he is believed to have begun assaulting women as an adolescent. In an advisory message that was taped and recorded by Ray on July 23rd, 1993. This recording was played for his victims after capturing them and described in graphic detail the horrific acts he was about to perpetrate on them. He claimed, okay, I hate
A little bit of a warning.
Yeah, just a little bit of a warning. I've been raping bitches ever since I was old enough to jerk off and tie little girls' hands behind their back.
Garbage.
Yeah. Apparently, he admitted to his first wife that he had committed his first homicide sometime in 1957, so he was around 16 years old, when he kidnapped a woman, tied her to a tree, and tortured and murdered her. However, authorities were unable to verify this account. I wish that they were able to verify this account, but... So after high school, Ray worked as a mechanic, and then Ray was in the United States Army and received an honorable discharge where his services included work as a general mechanic.
I did try to look into that a little bit more. I couldn't find what he did in like the army. I don't know why he got discharged. I don't know. I did try to go into it.
Yeah.
Couldn't
find anything. It's strange.
Yeah.
So Ray then worked as a maintenance man for the New Mexico Parks Department in Truth of Consequences, New Mexico, for the entirety of his adulthood until his arrest. The resort town contained several local bars where Ray frequented for his victims. Ray was divorced 4 times and had 2 children, a son, David Jr., and one of his accomplices, daughter Glenda, also known Jessie Jean Ray. Jessie had tried to warn the FBI about her father's criminal activity in 1986.
Also, yeah, just so you know, we will be referring to his daughter as Jessie from here on because that is what she's referred to as.
Yeah. FBI agent Doug Belden recalled her claims. She alleged that David Parker Ray was abducting and torturing women and selling them to buyers in Mexico. However, the allegations were so nonspecific that the FBI were unable to arrest Ray. Ray met 37-year-old Cindy Hindy, who worked at a state park in Truth or Consequences, and who was fleeing convictions on grand theft and drug charges in Washington state.
Sounds like a winner.
Yeah. What a great person. They became romantically involved and bonded over their shared violent sexual fantasies. In the tape that was recorded in 1993, Ray told his captives that they would be forced to sexually service Hindy as well. Cindy participated in the abduction, torture, and sexual abuse of Ray's victims. She also assisted with the logistical aspects of his crimes, including the procurement of victims and the operation of the toy box, which was a trailer outfitted with various devices for torture.
So we're going to go over a lot of what this guy did in his criminal history. This is the part where it starts to get really heavy. So again, if this isn't for you, you can go ahead and skip ahead. We completely understand. I'll try to warn, like, before I say anything too bad. Yeah. But I also apologize in advance because I'm going to list pretty much everything he did and used. So you're really going to have to buckle in here.
Yeah, it's heavy. So
some of the lists seem like they go on forever.
Yeah.
So Ray sexually tortured and presumably killed his victims using whips, chains, pulleys, straps, clamps, leg spreader bars, surgical blades, electric shock machines, saws, and definitely more. It is thought that he terrorized multiple women with these tools for many years with the help of accomplices who were apparently several of the women he was dating at the time. Ray's homemade torture room was a repurposed, soundproofed cargo trailer located immediately outside his Elephant Butte, New Mexico property. Ray stocked the trailer, which he called the toy box, with numerous sex toys, torture implements, syringes, and detailed diagrams showing ways of inflicting pain, as well as a homemade electrical generator to electrocute his victims. In total, Ray is believed to have spent $100,000 on the trailer, fitting it with sex toys and torture devices, which we mentioned above.
Jesus, I just want to say, when Mac and I do these episodes, we try not to read each other's parts much, so I am shocked
being
as
exposed
well.
to this for the first time. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. There was an FBI officer who visited the toy box / bondage room, and this is what he described. As FBI Officer Yance entered the room, which had a Satan Den sign on the outside, he saw a tall tripod with an expensive RCA Victor camcorder pointing towards a large black leather table chair setup, which we will go more into the setup. This chair had metal stirrups, electrodes, and dozens of red plastic straps. Just above this chair, there was an RCA Victor television set, which hung from the ceiling so that the female victims could actually see what David was doing to them. As the officer moved to the side of the trailer, he saw a coat hanger with a long black robe hanging from it. On the clipboard hanging next to this robe, Yance noticed that David had a list of the victims he had kidnapped between 1993 and 1997. Halfway down this left side of the hand wall, where everything else is, there was a large cork bulletin board which was covered with black and white photographs of the women he tortured. Above this was written, "The Lure of Satanism." This is not a nice part. The pictures on the board show these women in different stages of bondage. There was a picture displayed that showed a woman's naked breasts, hog-tied with constricting rope at the base and bulging due to obvious pain. There were old-fashioned clothespins attached to each nipple, and her face appeared smothered with terror. There were also drawings which showed the stages in which David tortured the captive woman. There was an illustration of a man beneath a woman, and he is inserting 2 dildos into 2 openings between her legs as she hung from the ceiling from her ankles and her hands. The man wore a satanic pentacle around his neck and resembled a much younger version of David. Then there was a piece of writing from David that reads, "Remember, a woman will do or say anything to get loose. They will kick, scratch, offer money, bite, yell, beg, scream, offer sex, threaten, lie, or wait for opportunity. The standard excuses and sob stories include that they're menstruating, pregnant, they have a venereal disease, which is basically just an older term for an STD, AIDS, they have sick kids at home with a babysitter, they have to go to work, they have a sick baby, claustrophobic, they're going to be missed by a husband or friend, or they can't miss school or work. Don't let her talk to you. If she was worth taking, she is worth keeping, and she must be subjected to hypnosis before the woman can be safely released. Never trust a chained captive."
Oh my God.
He's horrible. He's actually like the worst.
I want to vomit.
Yeah, that's fair. The wall on the right-hand side of the trailer consisted of David's tools, which included chains, whips, paddles, pulleys, leather belts, saw blades, harnesses, handcuffs, ropes, wires, needles, pins, screws, clamps, nipple clamps, breast suction cups, metal bras, sandpaper, metal, wooden, plastic, and latex dildos of all sizes. There was a branding iron, a soldering iron, and weighted lead sinkers, and there was even an assortment of fish hooks.
Like, you guys can't see the look on my face, but, like, I've been gasped the whole time.
She's literally just sitting there with her hand over her mouth.
I actually have no words.
I can hear my voice getting shaky at times when I'm reading this, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I forget actually how...
As you, like, read it, because, like, researching the episode is so different than reading it.
Saying it out loud.
Yeah.
So some of this is going to reinstate what the officer, like the FBI officer Jans mentioned like before. But I also read that there was a mirror mounted on the ceiling above the obstetric table, which any woman who's been to like an OBGYN or like a gynecologist office knows what that is. It's just one of those chairs that you recline back on, and there's stirrups for your feet to go into, and then the doctor does their business doing whatever they have to look at. So this table was used to strap his victims down so that they would be able to see themselves, as mentioned, and then, they would see themselves be raped and tortured. He wanted his victims to see everything that he was doing to them. There was also a large yellow generator on the floor under his wall of sex toys. It had a top handle and an attachment to the back of a 15-inch flesh-colored motorized dildo pointing forward 15 inches. This was designed to look exactly like a man's penis. It even had bulging veins on it. And it was so thick that not even a man could hold it with a closed fist. The generator had 3 switches for buzzer, light, and probe. I'm sorry, I didn't give you a pre-warning for that. That was,
I have no words.
This, honestly, is just one big trigger warning because it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
Ray also put his victims in wooden contraptions that bent them over and immobilized them while he had his dogs and sometimes other friends rape his captives.
Dogs?
Dogs. It was reported that Ray constructed elaborate contraptions to confine his victims, such as a fur-lined coffin and a makeshift pillory, which is a device made of like wooden or metal framework, and it's put on like a post so that their head and hands are stuck in it, like those medieval fucking Renaissance
I know what you're talking about.
torture period times, and it like those were originally made for public humiliation.
Yeah.
In addition, there was also elaborate locks and pulleys to prevent his captives from escaping.
Holy shit.
Ray often had the tape recording of his voice playing for his victims whenever they regained consciousness. In the transcriptions of this tape, which if you read them, they are available on the internet if you would like to be exposed to that. They are very fucked up, however. That's up to you. So in this tape that he recorded, he detailed how he would occasionally release his captives, abandoning them by the side of a country road after severely drugging them with barbiturates to induce amnesia, which would prevent them from reporting the assaults. He's quoted saying in this tape, I believe, yeah, it's an excerpt from the tape, I get off on mind games. After we get completely through with you, keep in mind he says we, you're going to be drugged up real heavy with a combination of sodium pentothal and phenobarbital. They are both hypnotic drugs that will make you extremely susceptible to hypnosis, auto-hypnosis, and hypnotic suggestion. You're going to be kept drugged for a couple of days while I play with your mind. By the time I get through brainwashing you, you're not going to remember a fucking thing about this little adventure. Ugh. So apparently he would kidnap about 4 to 5 women a year, holding each victim for around 2 to 3 months.
Oh.
The ones that were mentioned, which we will probably get into in part 2, they were only held for a couple days. So I don't know. I don't have any of the accounts of people that were held for like a couple months. I don't know if they survived.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was sometimes, I feel like in this case, it was a little hard to find.
Well, yeah, I found when I was like bouncing back and forth between sources, there was some conflicting information. So I did try to include everything that was mentioned. So if that's why some of these things that kind of contradict themselves, that's why I just went back and forth between multiple sources and tried to make the most sense out of it.
Yeah, it's like one of the cases that it's just so many people.
Just so much information. I could keep going. I did 18 pages of information on this guy and I could still go more.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, I have to stop.
Yeah, it's just one of those. There's so many infos. What's what? It's just hard to source every single detail.
Yeah. And this has been something that I've been working on for a while too, as you know. This has been something I've slowly been coming back to, being like, do I add more information or what do I do?
Yeah, it's hard. This one, because you have to just know when to cut yourself off when you're searching and just try and get in the key things.
So exactly how many of his captives he murdered over the years is uncertain, but investigators believe that he raped, tortured, and killed around 60 to 100 people over the course of his life, but they have not been able to locate any of their remains. Ray kept a diary where he detailed what he did to each victim, but it did not disclose where he buried their bodies. And according to Cindy Hendy, the people Ray killed were dismembered and buried, dumped in the Elephant Butte Lake or in nearby ravines, and after his arrest, he agreed to actually show authorities where he had buried his victims, but he fucking died before he could do so, and Hendy was absolutely just useless and unable to assist the investigators in recovering any of the bodies.
I remember that he died before that.
Yeah, of a heart
I remember. Attack. Honestly, he got the easy way out, personally.
But I was like, are you joking?
I remember that. And it pissed me off because I'm like, you just said you would show, and then coincidentally, I am going to say coincidentally, because coincidentally, he died. And it's like, I'm like, whatever. It pissed me off.
Yeah.
It did piss me off.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you
did that horrible thing.
The FBI was so close to giving family members a little bit of, closure. Yeah. If they could find at least a couple remains. But then no, and he dies. And yeah, it pissed me
This
off.
case, like, breaks me a little. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
In 2011, the Albuquerque FBI released hundreds of images of items that are still up to this day. You can go see them on the internet. These were collected during the investigation of Ray. The FBI believes some of the items, which included jewelry and clothes, may have been taken from victims, and they were asking family and friends of missing people to look over the photographs and contact them if they had recognized any items. The FBI sent 100 agents to examine Ray's property and surroundings, but no identifiable human remains were found. His horrific reign ended in March 1999. He was 59 years old when survivor Cynthia Vigil managed to escape from his clutches after 3 days of torture. So we will definitely get into her story in part 2. But her escape actually led to David and Cindy's arrests and the subsequent charges that came.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the MO, like the letter. So Ray and also his occasional accomplices targeted prostitutes, luring them with some kind of ruse, such as soliciting them or pretending to be a police officer. He would then take them to the toy box and record the torture either by audio or with a video camera and take trophies such as the clothing and jewelry that was mentioned. So now we're kind of getting into the trial, and
this is very frustrating. Hold on to your fucking pants, because
yeah,
this is going to be a wild ride.
So while awaiting trial, Ray spoke to FBI profilers and said that he was fascinated by the kidnapping of Colleen Stan and other sexually motivated kidnappings. The FBI had spoken to Ray as early as 1989 in connection with his business manufacturing and selling bondage-related sexual devices. Ray's trial began on March 28, 2000, just after the jury selection was done. He suffered a heart attack and the trial was postponed. The judge postponed the trial further in order to try Ray for a 1996 murder in Colorado, even though the evidence wasn't very strong. A sheet listing routines for keeping prisoners was excluded along with the torture devices in the toy box since it couldn't be proven that they were in Ray's possession in 1996. On May 23, 2000, the jury selection for Ray's new trial was finally done and he was charged with 12 counts of kidnapping, sexual abuse, aggravated assault, and conspiracy. There may have been more, but he was never convicted of murder. In July, the judge declared a mistrial because the jury couldn't agree on a verdict. Two jurors said they found Kelly's story unbelievable, and not all of them were persuaded that the testifying victims had been held against their will. Ray's defense was that the sex trailer was part of Ray's fantasy life and any sex was consensual.
Yeah, that's why you had to abduct them.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I don't like this guy.
No. No.
Rest in... Actually, I was listening to Morbid. They say rest in despair, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, rest in despair. You suck.
Yeah. In November, a retrial began. A few days into it, the judge passed away. The proceedings couldn't resume until the next year in April 2001. This time, Ray was not as fortunate and was found guilty on all 12 charges. In June, his second trial began. He made a plea bargain to plead guilty in exchange for his daughter, who had been an accomplice in at least one murder, receiving 5 years of probation. Consequently, Ray faced at least 223 years in prison. Ray has allegedly admitted to having had an accomplice named Billy Bowers, a previous business partner with whom it said Ray also murdered. A judge ruled that the cases for the crimes against Cynthia Vigil, Angelica Montano, and Kelly Garrett would be severed, meaning that Ray would be tried for each separately. Prosecutors said this damaged their case as each woman's story would otherwise have corroborated and bolstered the other's accounts. The judge also ruled much of the evidence found in the trial during the 1999 raid could not be admitted to the Garrett or Montano cases, including Ray's audio tape, in which he gave detailed descriptions of his abducting and torturing habits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so fucking frustrating.
Yeah.
So
I just feel so
frustrating.
bad for the victims. Like, it's just...
And the families, too.
Yeah, and
Like,
to just...
everyone involved.
Yeah. It's just sad. It's just really sad. Going back, the trial was a dramatic and deeply unsettling affair, given the nature of his crimes and the horrific details revealed during the investigation. Cynthia's escape was a pivotal moment that led to the discovery of evidence implicating Ray in severe crimes of torture and sexual assault. The investigation revealed gruesome evidence, including photographs, audio recordings, and the trailer itself, which was equipped with a variety of torture devices. Ray faced a multitude of charges, including kidnapping, sexual assault, and torture. Initially, he was charged with multiple counts of kidnapping and sexual assault, with additional charges considered as the investigation progressed. Given the evidence and the nature of the crimes, a plea deal was negotiated in 2001. He agreed to plead guilty to charges of kidnapping and sexual assault in exchange for a sentence of 224 years in prison, without the possibility of parole.
224 years?
Yeah.
Even if he did get parole, like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
Is that even possible?
No, I don't think so. This deal effectively spared him from a full trial and the possibility of execution, though he did not confess to any murders directly. The deal avoided a lengthy trial but left many questions about the full extent of his criminal activities unanswered, which is so annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, it's just frustrating that he took that plea deal to avoid certain things, and it frustrates me because I think he should have gotten the full lengthy trial and execution.
Yeah, but then you have to think about, like, the people who suffered this, and it's like, would they have
No, I
wanted
know.
to sit through, like, a full trial? Like, would I want to do that?
No, because it becomes more painful. So, like,
And you're reliving it, right? Like,
Yeah.
PTSD already. It's probably so immense.
Like, for the victims' families personally, no, I don't think they deserve a full trial. But for Ray and what he did, yeah, he deserves a full trial. So it's like one of those weird situations in terms.
Even with so many questions being left unanswered, like, he's still got 224 years in prison. So
Yeah,
could
which
you
is great.
imagine if everything actually was brought to light, what he would have received?
I feel like there would have been no way he would have gotten a plea deal like he did, and I think he would have just gotten straight execution with no question. If it was tried, like, all the way through the length.
Do they still do the death penalty? Is that still allowed? I thought I saw something that they were, like, overturning it or something.
I think so. I don't know if it's even, like, a certain circumstance type of thing.
Or is it just by state?
I want to look into that.
That's something I'm going to look into that. Yeah.
So during the legal proceedings, Ray was described as calm and detached. His demeanor was often interpreted as unemotional or even smug, which contrasted sharply with the gravity of his crimes. Ray's outward composure was unsettling to many observers, as it was at odds with the horrifying details emerging from the case. His calculated decision to enter a plea deal was seen as a way to avoid further scrutiny and the possibility of death sentence, like I just said. And I didn't even read this part, like, over. Like, it is calculated. Like, you can't think that it's not. And if you think that it's not, then I don't know what to tell you.
Fair.
The families of Ray's victims were deeply affected by the case. The emotional toll on them was immense, as they had to, like, grapple with the horrific details of Ray's crimes against their loved ones.
Yeah, because I'm not even sure if, like, their loved ones would have gone into full extent of what had happened. Like, they would be finding out things that they didn't even know had happened to their...
Yeah, which, like, is so heartbreaking to hear about your child.
And at the same point, you're also sitting there in the same room as the person who did that.
Yeah. So, like,
you're not to strangle them.
Yeah. You're trying to keep your composure.
Yeah.
For the sake of the
person who went through this.
Yeah. But you're staring at your child, whoever, family members, like, murderer, literally. Victims, families, and survivors, such as Cynthia Vigil, attended court proceedings and provided testimonies that highlighted the brutal nature of Ray's actions. The trial and subsequent sentencing provided some sense of closure, but also underscored the long-lasting impact of Ray's crimes on the victims and their families.
Mm-hmm.
The case brought attention to the issue of sexual violence and torture, promoting discussions about criminal justice and victim support. The details revealed during the investigation and trial highlighted the need for increased vigilance and support for survivors of such crimes. On May 28, 2002, Ray was transported to the Lee County Correctional Facility in Hobbs, New Mexico, to be questioned by state police. He died of a heart attack before the scheduled interrogation took place.
I'm punching the air right now.
Yeah. At the age of 62, also. With him dead, the case came to a dead end. No bodies were found, no possible victims were identified, and no old suspicious deaths related to Ray were ever officially linked to him. In November 2002, the toy box was opened to the public with the hope that it would lead to more surviving victims coming forward. In October of 2011, the FBI performed a search of McRae Canyon near Elephant Butte Lake, looking for potential victims, but found none. In February of 2012, the Australian Federal Police contacted the FBI about a potential victim known only as Connie, who had mentioned in a letter from a man named Mark that was postmarked in Sydney and was found in Ray's residence after his arrest.
And that is where we are going to stop for part 1.
Yeah, this case is so...
I've had this one locked and loaded since we started this podcast, and you have no idea how hard I've been itching.
Yeah,
to
because
get out and talk about it.
So many people have covered this case because it's just...
Yeah. Like, there are very, very, very many episodes on different podcasts out about this case, so if you would like to go listen to other ones, by all means, they might have different information than we do.
Like every podcast will do it their own way.
In a different take, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll probably get different information from us and different information, which is honestly not a bad thing because each podcast brings a different light to the case.
And like I said, like I listen to Morbid like religiously. I actually love them and adore them. And I was listening to their episode on the Toy Box Killer, and I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, like this case is so heavy. And like I said earlier in the episode, when we do the research for these cases, we aren't really, like, we're reading the research and we're playing everything out. But when we're actually reading it, like, I don't try and look at what Mac is reading versus her look at, and so our reactions are like raw. Like, you listening for the first time is like we're listening to each other's parts for the first time as well. So you're getting like a whole raw reaction. So
especially because I did type this one up so long ago, so I actually had forgotten about some of the more finer details.
Like literally my hand was over my mouth. I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. And that's especially why I wanted to read like the one part like his criminal history, because that's tough. That's a lot of shit.
That shit was so heavy. And honestly, if you listen to the whole thing and you're here with us right now from the beginning, thank you for still...
You strong.
Yeah. Thank you for still listening, like, with us. I'm also sorry you had to go through that with us as well.
Yeah. It's never nice to hear people do these things.
No, and it's just sad. And I also just really hate that he died of a heart attack. Because I just
more so for the victims than anything. Like,
I mean, if he was gonna die, I just wish it waited until after the whole...
At least he showed some of the bodies.
Yeah. I just feel like so many families deserved... It's like any case. Families deserve the closure. Families deserve to have the remains.
Yeah. And the closure, just to say goodbye.
Yeah. Instead of just being in a courtroom staring at the murderer.
One thing, like, because obviously he did hypnotize people and release them. I just want to know, like, what happened for him to make that decision. Like, oh, am I going to kill them or am I going to let them go?
Yeah, like, what was his, like, thought process to have changed? Because, like, I know it's kind of like a switch up in his MO. It's like he got bored of, like, one thing, so he would release them for fun. Like, that's what it comes across as.
I don't, or maybe I just gave him a rush because he knew, like, even
honestly,
though he had done all these things to these, like, however many people he did it to.
Yeah.
And the ones that he did let it go, like, maybe I gave him a rush to know that they were out there somewhere and he's still, like, unaffected by it. Like, he's his...
Yeah, because because he knows that he's let them go, but he gets away with it because they can't remember.
Yeah. So it almost gave him like a rushed keep.
So fucking sick.
I would love to look at his brain. I would love to just study that.
See all the fucking
Like,
issues.
why are you the way that you are? Like, obviously, he had some trauma as a
100%.
child, but
And I feel like a lot of serial killers have the trauma.
but there's a difference. Yeah, there's just a lot of words and a lot of things to say about this man, and I hope he is suffering consequences for his actions every single day
Oh, yeah.
down there.
Yeah, that bitch is in hell.
But anyways, that's enough of us rambling. Thank you for listening to us, and thank you for listening to part 1 of the Toy Box Killer or David Parker Ray case. Definitely wasn't an easy one, so you are a trooper for sitting this far. We will be releasing part 2 hopefully sooner.
We haven't decided if we want to make you wait a little bit or if we want to release it as the next episode.
It'll be a fun little surprise for you.
Yeah, stay tuned for that.
Don't forget that you can submit your spooky stories on Ghoul Talk in a link in the episode description. And please, please, please leave us a review. We would appreciate it. I know we just came back, but we
would appreciate the support and the love.
Yeah, we need the love right now. Remember to keep it spooky, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.